I had to listen to when you and which.
Sure, that's good.
She has some beautiful photographs. She sent me some.
Oh yeah, Jean.
Flowers, yes.
Flowers. I just took a bunch now. I'll try to put it on the website because they're very. It's my Jonet garden instead of Monet, so.
Oh, very nice. Really nice.
Yeah.
We'd love to see.
Did you go on too? Or you want video?
So,
Where is Rich? Where is Alan?
Funny noises.
Somebody has some birds.
I think if everybody could go on mute.
Yeah, what is that sound?
It's usually somebody using their phone and the computer.
Is it usually a phone?
The iPhone.
Oh, it's interesting. It seems like when people are coming on phone or iPad, they do the noises. Okay, well, it's 5 o'clock, so I'm wondering if we should start. I guess we probably should. It's 5:01. So welcome to the latest Montgomery Art Association online show. And it was really a pleasure to work with the other show organizers who want to hide themselves, I guess, at this point, but Anastasia and Jen. And it was an interesting process. The work is fantastic. You know, when we think about landscapes and we see these pastoral scenes in our head, or we see woods, or we see waterways, but you know, urban landscapes have all this activity and energy and variety. So it was really neat. There are 61 really top quality paintings, and you know, I think you're all going to really enjoy seeing them if you haven't gone through and seen them all. So I guess at this point I want to introduce our juror, and I just met her a few minutes ago. It's Carolyn Bevans. She's waving to you. And Carolyn has her master's degree in museum studies from Johns Hopkins. She's worked so many places. She's worked at the Freer and the Jewish Museum of Maryland, the National Building Museum, I love that place, and the Smithsonian American Art Museum. And now she's working at the National Gallery in their education division. So Carolyn, I'll turn it over to you, and we'll start looking at the paintings, and you can let us see them through your eyes.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jamie, for the wonderful introduction. Hi, everyone. It's great to sort of virtually meet you. I do wish we could do this in person. It would be so much nicer to actually be in the same space. I was talking to Anastasia, Jen, and Jamie earlier about how, as somebody who works in a museum, one of the things that I most value is scale, and that's something that is sort of lost in reproduction. But it was such a joy to see all of these artworks. And I have to say, I am only representing my own opinion, not the National Gallery of Arts. This is just Carolyn Bevans, girl down the street with some background in art and a true love for it. So I really appreciate you all sharing this opportunity with me and the chance to see your artwork. It was really, truly amazing. I couldn't believe that there were as many phenomenal paintings. It was really impossible to choose, to be honest. One of the things when I was offered the opportunity to take a look at all of the categories, and I selected urban landscape, was that this sort of cityscapes and urban landscapes has been a theme or genre in art for centuries. And part of what I love about it, as Jamie said, is it's full of life and people, and it captures architecture and narrative and in a really interesting and complex way. And one of the things that I think is particularly interesting about urban landscape now is how much it's changing as our relationship is changing to urban and public spaces in light of the pandemic. So I was really curious to see what entries were coming up and what this was bringing about sort of artistically in our local Montgomery County community. So should we go ahead and dive in? We'll start with some honorable mentions.
Sure, and I forgot to mention when we started that we should all mute ourselves and try to go into speaker view. If we can find that on our screens, that'll be the best way to view it. So now I will mute myself again and
All right. So should we head to our first piece? All right. So our first honorable mention is Old Nice by Jean Powell. This painting really stood out to me in many ways. The first was that its mood was so sort of serene and lovely, and I felt like it transported me to this lovely town. I say town because the buildings don't look particularly tall. You still have this beautiful piece of sky that is sort of arching across the top. And I love how the buildings have just sort of grown up around the edges of the piece. Compositionally, I think this is really gorgeous. And I love that you have this sense of light and air, and you have people moving through the streets. It really stood out to me as one of, I really got a sense of space and place here. It felt like I had just walked right out of this building and onto this street and into this sort of fresh morning air. I think it was a lovely example of urban landscape. So Jean, I don't know if you're on with us, but if you want to say any words, tell us a little bit about this work for you. I would love to hear a little bit about what you were thinking or feeling, or where you were when you painted it.
Yeah, this is a plein air piece that I did in Nice last September. Yeah. And I literally had just turned myself around from one that I had, a piece that I had in an earlier show a couple of times ago that was a St. Rita's church facing the other way. This is turned around. Literally sitting on the edge of the street facing up a steep hill at the edge of Old Nice here. And you know, trying to capture the light, which was totally different from when I was facing the other way, and a little bit of sense of the activity, and I was literally sitting on the edge of a hookah bar in Old Nice there that was shut up during the day. At night, it had all its usual hookah activity. But it was a very isolated place to sit and do plein air in Old Nice, and this gorgeous environment, but away from the lots of people and traffic and all of that. I mean, not car traffic, but people traffic. And because of this building being closed, everything else was sidewalk cafes on both sides. But anyway, that was it. Midday painting, really. I'm kind of looking toward the sun in this painting last September.
Thank you so much for sharing. It sounds wonderful. What made you want to pick this spot, just out of curiosity? The light?
The colors And when I was facing the other way, I did the St. Rita's Church facing the other way first. And the golds and yellows are just absolutely dramatic in that part of Nice. And then when I turned around to face looking uphill at these, there were more oranges and there were more sun shining directly on the building from the way I was looking the other way. So I got more, some different shadow shapes. But it's really the colors in that part of Old Nice are unbelievable. They're, you know, and then the facing the other way, I had a real dark ultramarine sky. Facing this way, I'm looking more into the sun, and it's a much more modulated sky.
It's really beautiful. It makes me want to go to Nice. And you
go. Yeah, right. I mean, I'm dreaming about it. I was supposed to go back this September, and I've had to cancel, not to Nice, but to southern France, and it's hard.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you very much, Carolyn.
Oh, please, thank you. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. Anastasia, should we go to our next honorable mention? So our next honorable mention is Bronx Traffic by Anastasia Walsh. This one was one of my favorites as well, because as soon as I saw this piece, what it did for me is just, I had such a visceral reaction. Like, I've been there, I've done that. Yes, I know exactly what that feels like. And as we all know, transportation is such a sort of defining, critical element to the urban experience. I really loved the way Anastasia captured that here. I mean, we see this, these sort of like heat waves. To me, this is summertime sort of traffic. Like I can feel the sort of humidity and the heat, and sort of see those heat waves that are like coming off of the vehicles. And there's this real sense of being in traffic. And I love how real that feels. I think that was one of the things when I was looking at all of the works, was something that I found particularly compelling in the pieces that were selected, because there's something universal about the urban experience, and when an artist could capture that, I found it really amazing. So I think this painting was one of those for me. I also really loved, I mean, the colors in it are also fantastic. I love the sky, the blues and the purples, and the way they mingle with the clouds. And the I also really love the lights, the sort of brake lights on the back of the car. Anastasia, I'll turn it over to you in just a second, because I'm super curious. When I saw this, I was like, what made you want to paint traffic? Because that would just never occur to me. I sort of think about works that I would want to imagine myself in that scenario, and traffic is never one of those scenarios for me. It's not somewhere I personally like to be, but at the same time, I really love how you've captured that here. And we have this real sense of sort of feeling like we're set down. I like how you've positioned the viewer in this piece, and you feel like you're coming up out of a tunnel or something like that, with these sort of monumental trucks and this almost like median like wall reaching up. It feels so urban to me. And Anastasia, I want to hear all about what made you select this spot and this time and this place.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. And I actually just was here in this picture about 2 weeks ago, so it's very new. And I was driving back from New Hampshire, and I mistakenly stayed on 95 and got stuck in the Bronx. And it probably cost me an hour of the trip. We were pretty much stopped, which is why I could focus on this. But why I picked this is I had been trying to think of an urban landscape that meant something to me. And earlier in the week, I had been at a wildlife refuge, and what I noticed at the wildlife refuge was actually a yard where they kept all their equipment. And I thought, well, that's also urban because it's wherever people have gotten involved. So to me, traffic was very much a part of who we are. And there's one other painting in this exhibit that is also a painting of somebody in traffic. So I think it does appeal to us that's where we spend a lot of our time. We love the buildings, we love the sense of people. But I love these two trucks in front of me. They were very interesting, and so yes, it appealed to me. I can't do plein air because of the work I do painting on glass, but I did take several pictures, and it was this one picture that just grabbed me.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the way that you've used these really bold lines to outline the trucks. It makes it feel like it adds weight and a sense of distance and space, which is just really, really cool. It's
Thank
really
you.
well done. So should we move to our next honorable mention? All right, our third honorable mention is number 57 by Jim Klumpner. Jim, this is a great piece, and I don't know if you're on, but I look forward to turning it over to you in just a couple of minutes.
I just unmuted myself.
Oh, great, excellent, you're here. That's fabulous. Jim, this was incredible. It was one of the paintings that really stood out to me visually, and part of what I think was interesting about it is there's this the mood almost seemed ominous to me. There's this sort of glowing reds, oranges, and sort of yellows along the horizon line with this sort of vignette of black, and this sort of field of what looks like buildings, maybe residences. And then as we come to like the foreground, we have these houses that are sort of surrounding a pool, and then these sort of like sand-like, this like matter that's almost oozing out of the houses. And there's this weight to it as it sort of comes into this pool that's really, really, really dark. And I loved this sense of there's life in this place, but there's also this sense of it being overwhelmed by something else. So, and I love these sort of touches of green that are trees, but it's so so overwhelmed by buildings. And these buildings, I really like how you've rendered them with these sort of organic shapes and these bright touches of red, but this sort of muted blue. It's really, really interesting. And I love this sense of like balconies, and there's something about some of these sort of houses in the foreground that seems grand. I loved it because it sparked a sense of curiosity, and you have this almost aerial view of what feels in some way like imaginative. Yes, apocalyptic and moody. I totally agree, Jennifer. There's something really, it really stood out to me. Jim, I loved it. So I would love to hear a bit about what your artistic process is and how this painting really came about.
Well, first of all, thank you. Those are very generous compliments. And also, I'd say you got my painting to a T in terms of identifying what I hoped would be the stronger elements of it. You know, I do surrealistic things. This is not from any particular place. but I don't like to reveal my personal motivations in these things because I want other people to tell their own stories and to be drawn in and say, oh, this looks like something. And some people are willing to do that. But in this case, I will reveal a few bits of inspiration. The pool in the foreground, I was watching a movie that had a health spa, and they had some kind of pool surrounded by cabanas, and it was moonlit. And so that was the starting point for this. I wanted to see if I could do something with light and shadow that was moonlight instead of sunlight. And then I have to confess, at the top of the painting, I did this shortly after reading War and Peace, and that clearly was inspired by the burning of Moscow. So, but I put these disparate elements together to try and get something that'll provoke a reaction from the viewer without giving them direction. I don't like to attach a lot of text or my own story to the paintings.
It sounds fascinating, though. I love knowing those bits of inspiration.
I'm a little surprised that you didn't mention one of the things that's right smack in the middle of the painting, which is the view inside this house where there's little candelabra and some paintings on the wall.
Yeah.
I had fun with that. And again, playing with the light. I mean, to some extent, I'm self-taught, and so I was teaching myself how to do light and shadow better. And I hope the pavement outside that window looks like it's illuminated from within rather than
It
without.
does. It does. And I love the windows here, and I agree with you. I really like those two windows, and they stand out because all of the other windows are dark, and you have these, they're accented by these nice red shutters. But you're right, it's like the two windows that are almost obscured. Like I find myself when I look at it, I'm like sort of leaning over to see if I can like see him, like I'm a nosy neighbor or something.
It's got this very strong two-point perspective that goes all the way from the horizon to, as you say, you're looking down on this pool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Really, I will just continue to say thank you to everyone. It was really a joy to be part of this process and to see all of this artwork. You guys are an amazing group. So thank you again. Anastasia, should we keep going or? Okay. So our third place award goes to Bicycles in Rome by Laura Aikman. Laura, and again, I'll turn it over to you in just a couple of seconds. I really love this piece. Congratulations on third place. Going back to sort of what I was talking about with Anastasia's piece, transportation is obviously a key component in urban life, and I love the sense of movement here. It is a joy to look at this painting, and I love that the bicycles have been highlighted, but despite the fact that they appear to be parked, you've captured this feeling of motion, and it's everywhere. It's from the textures in the building and the way that you've used the oranges and the reds in juxtaposition with the greens and this sort of like brushworky, slicey pattern. And then it looks like the bicycles seem to be parked maybe under a window with these three gorgeous plants that seem to be on like a windowsill of sorts. So again, thinking about to Jim's painting where you're sort of looking in, you have this sense of depth, but really what captivated me with this piece was this sense of movement. I adore it. I love how the bicycles have been rendered. I love this sort of sense of symmetry here. I'm seeing some comments come in. The color is, again, you've used color in a really beautiful rhythmic sort of way. I almost feel like this painting has a sound to it. There's some, like, to me, I can hear sort of the clatter of dishes, as maybe this is a cafe and people are dining inside, but it's a beautiful day out, so the window is open. You have this really lovely sense of capturing this sort of moment. And what I also, in sort of this sense of movement, is this idea that cities and urban spaces are often very transient. So there's this constant sense of coming and going and moving between two spaces. And I think you've captured this in a really lovely way. And despite not having sort of a lot of harsh architectural elements, we can really get a sense of light with the way that you've rendered the bicycles and the sort of lighting along the wheels and the way it hits sort of this almost what, again, I'm seeing as a windowsill, but the way that you've played with abstraction. Laura, I think that this piece is really lovely. And thinking about scale, this is a pretty big painting. This is what, 3 by 2 feet? It's really lovely. So I would love to hear from you a bit about it, if we're in a particular place, or maybe, yeah, tell us a little bit. Is Laura here? Maybe she's not.
Okay, it was in Rome. Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was in Rome, and it was actually kind of down a sort of dark passageway.
Oh,
but,
really?
Yeah, it was. And then what I did was just to abstract it and make it real colorful. And using real bright colors is not something that I've done most of my life. So it's really exciting for me now to be able to use them and to really feel what it feels like to express myself using those almost garish colors in some points. So yeah, I just enjoy doing it, and I really appreciate that you liked it. It's nice.
Of course, it was really wonderful.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm not a type of person who really expresses in words a lot about my paintings. So, but like I said, it was Rome, and it was just this, the outside street was really bustling and busy, but then you looked down this, walkway, and that's where the bikes were, sort of parked as though, the person who lives there, parks them every night and then goes upstairs, and that's part of the, the overall, like you said, the flow of an urban situation.
Yeah. Well, it surprises me that you mentioned that the alleyway was actually darker, because I do get this sense of like a lot of light, and there's this really uplifting mood to it. I think there was something that when I saw it, my heart just rose up a little bit in my chest.
Yeah. Yeah, the old me would have painted it sort of very literally with using the exact colors that were there, but this is the new me. Maybe it's the new
I love it.
Self-quarantine me.
I love that your quarantine self is so joyful. That's fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Anastasia, should we move to our second place? Yeah. So second place, Back Alley in Bruges by Matthew Baker. This was another one that stopped me in my tracks when I saw it. This is just incredible to me in so many ways. I think the first thing that struck me here was the lighting. The lighting just seemed like its own, like a portrait of light. The way it just very Hopper-esque. We're seeing these really beautifully defining lines, and the way the light sort of comes down across these different buildings. And I love that it highlights these individual textures the way that you sort of trace it across this brick and then onto the stucco and across the glass window and then down into this almost balcony rooftop area where the viewer seems to be situated. And sort of beyond that, right, we have this beautifully clear day. And for me, this was another painting that I felt like I could just step right into. So that feeling of being able to be out on this balcony, and to me, it's this sort of crisp morning. The light to me seems to be on not so much high in the sky, but to the east or the west. And so at some point in the day when it might be transitioning to morning or evening, and there's just that sort of slight chill in the air. So you sort of step out into this space and you get that sense of chill, and if you were to step just a little bit further and have that light touch your skin, it would be so warm. So I love that you really captured this sense of temperature, and the mood is so serene and still. The way that you've used these complementary diagonals and balance, I think adds to that beautifully, Matthew. This one also reminded me of, in some ways, the way Monet painted and how he would visit a place over and over again and paint it again and again in different light. And this struck me as a place that you could visit again and again in different light, and just feels a little bit different every time. And so there's something really momentarily lovely about that. If Matthew is here, I would love to hear from you a little bit about this piece.
Thank you. This was actually a painting image of the back alley from the hotel that I was staying in Bruges. And I was standing at the elevator and I happened to turn around and the sun was just hitting the buildings just right. I felt that there was the composition was almost, made to do, it was saying, please paint me, please paint me. The thing that I really got into was the shadows and the way that they reflected off of the different areas, the different buildings, and the way that they were very luminescent. Needless to say, I had to bring up the blue a little bit more than you would have seen, but it was there, in the mind's eye, and it was just bouncing back and forth. And I used that quite a bit. I feel very good about it because the fact that it was one of those paintings where it may not look like a whole lot of work because of the large areas, but it took time and effort to get the right feel that I wanted. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. I love that you talked about getting that right feel and how it's not so instant, how sometimes it's a revisiting.
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
Oh, sorry, saying, I love that you mentioned that it's sort of, that this process for you and capturing this place was a process. You kept sort of coming back to it to get that right mood, so that it was really what you wanted to capture. You did a beautiful job.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Should we do a drum roll? Drum roll to first place. So first place is Skyscape of Color by Twyla Wadi. This piece captured my eyes and heart and soul. This, again, was another one that stopped me in my tracks, I think, for so many different reasons. The first was the colors. I loved the use of color in this piece. especially the way it was applied. So we have this beautifully rich, vibrant red across the top, and then this sort of black, sort of faded black line, and that sort of indicates a horizon. And we have this gorgeous, rich blue, and then these buildings that are so vibrant. I love that it's one of those paintings that doesn't let go of color. You know, sometimes you have paintings where there's one pop, but this one is popping everywhere. And I think that's fantastic. So I loved also the sense of space here, and what the way Twyla has played with this really urban sense of space, in that the buildings pop up one after the next. There's this sense of sort of being stacked on top of one another and in really close proximity, which I think adds, in addition to the colors, a sense of vibrancy, and again, this sort of sense of rhythm with the rooftops, the way that they've been sort of almost gently painted across the entire painting, and the way that they've sort of almost have this wave-like flow when you look across the entire painting. This painting also, the signature, right, Jamie, becomes part of the building to the lower right-hand corner. It's fantastic. The touches of white, the yellows, the blues, everything about this painting is so rich. And to me, there was, as I spent sort of more time to it, because I kept coming back to it, there's something about this painting that kept bringing me back and bringing me back again and again. And there was also this sense of a really sort of meditative sky. This sky, I feel like if I saw it in person, would just keep my attention, the way it is sort of dashed with yellow that sort of complements this really, really bright red. That I think also when we're thinking about scale, again, this is a really 8x8 is a really intimately sized painting. And I think there's something really lovely about capturing an urban space, a cityscape on that scale. There's something about it that invites you to be really close, in the same way that these buildings and people in urban spaces are close. I really, Twyla, I don't know if you're here, but I would love to hear about this painting from your perspective, if you're willing to share.
Thank you so very much. It is one of my smaller pieces, and I tend to do smaller, medium-sized pieces. I love color, as you can tell. I love sunsets and sunrises. So a lot of my paintings will have that red sky and things like that. And I love the water, I love the beach. So there's always water a lot in some of my landscapes and things like that. And the buildings are just things on my imagination of this, you know, the skyscape. When you look up, you just see building after building after building. Whether you're looking at New York, DC, you know, you got people kind of on top of one another. And again, like I said, I love color. And so this one I just kept painting until I got it right to where I liked it. So thank you again.
Thank you. It's really a lovely work. So thank you, everyone, for your submissions. All of the artwork was really amazing, and I can't thank all of the artists enough for participating. So Jamie, should I turn it back over to you, or?
Sure, you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. I was wondering, Jen, did you want to share some of the comments, or is there, is there something else that you wanted to, I know that we mentioned that.
There was definitely no questions in the comments section. It was just lots of compliments. If you want to scroll through at this point, you know, it actually was by piece, so I'm not exactly sure which piece at this point, but if you want to scroll through the chat, lots of compliments on lovely work and colors and composition. And this last piece, Twyla's, the signature really becomes part of the piece, which is so true. I definitely. And then Matthew's buildings in the city of play, it was great. Yeah.
Good. Okay, I'm not sure now, do we have the time that we could scroll through the other works?
No, we won't do that.
You won't be able to do that, but you can go online and you can see the show is open now. And so I think all of the works are fantastic. I think Carolyn obviously did a great job and a difficult job to do, to pick these. But the paintings, all in all, are just so uplifting for us at this time when we're all stuck in our homes. It brings in an array of light, I think, and I'm sure we'll go back over and over to look over them.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that Anastasia you wanted to say, or Jen?
Thank you for participating. It's a great
Thank you.
show, and thank you to Carolyn. She did a fantastic job, and some great selections. It's really fun.
I agree.
It's a wonderful show.
So much, Carolyn.
It's a gorgeous show.
We'll be
Didn't
looking
really do
for
anything. I didn't have to do
program.
anything. These works spoke for themselves.
We'll be looking for Carolyn's education programs at the National Gallery. And, you know, thank you all for signing on. And the next show will be what? That will be the plein air show?
The plein air, that's what I was just going to say. The plein air show, be sure to enter. Everything has to be painted outside. So on your honor.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for coming, and you know, visit the site, like I said, whenever you want to be cheered up. And it was a pleasure working with you guys. I didn't know what was involved in putting these shows together, and now I can see. And I think we all need to thank the people in Montgomery Art Association for the incredible professional job they do, and keeping a presence. I know a lot of arts organizations wanted to keep a presence during this time. And I think it just came naturally to you, the folks at Montgomery Art Association, to just keep it going, even though we can't go out and see the work in person. So thanks to all the people there that are doing that. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. And I guess that will be the end of this, but we will have some salons coming up. The dates of the salons I don't have in front of me.
We've not set those yet, so we'll be working that. But usually it's the 3rd or 4th week of the month, so we'll set those up.
Look for that, and that will then it'll give people a chance to talk about their work.
Oh, one last thing. I want to do a plug. Next week we have a PT specialist and trainer, Perry Evanoff, who's coming to show us some stretches and stuff artists need to know. I know I get really stiff while painting for a while, and she's going to sort of talk about what we can do to keep ourselves healthy and limber.
Great.
So in order to sign up for that, go on the MAA website. It's free.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you all for coming, and we'll see you the next time.
Thank you, JB.
Congratulations to the awards winners.
Congratulations, everyone. Thank you.
Congratulations.